Yes, lads, UFC Fighter Jack Show here. You can catch me on the latest episode of A.C.E Podcast Nation. Make sure to give them a subscribe on YouTube. It's youtube.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation, and looking forward to get back on there soon.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 47 as we hurtle in towards 50 episodes. We're going to be talking last night's UFC, bit of Bellator, bit of bare knuckle boxing, and some news and upcoming fights. And with no further ado, let's get straight into it because there's lots to talk about. First of all, we have ex-Cage Warriors champion and legend of the UK MMA scene, Mr. Danny Batten. How are you, mate?
Yeah, you're right, Si. I'm doing good.
Good, man. And joining us for the third time, the second week in a row, is future Cage Warriors welterweight champion, I'd say, Aaron King Khalid. All right, buddy?
I'm all right. How are you?
All right, mate. Back again for some more punishment, you?
Yeah, can't get rid of me.
No, you were being good fun. So why not have you back again, I say. So as is tradition, before we get into the kind of UFC card from last night, which was, very newsworthy, couple of little bits of news, slightly bigger bit of news as well. Where should we start? Let's start with Jon Jones versus Israel Adesanya. Looks like it's getting closer because they've Dana White announced that Israel Adesanya will face Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight title. Danny, what do you make of that?
Yeah, certainly an interesting matchup. Adesanya's got to deal with the fact that he's going to be the smaller man in terms of body weight. So, yeah, it's certainly going to be tested more. Certainly going to get tested more.
Question, Aaron, would you be, if you were Jared Cannonier, I can never say his bloody name, would you be pissed off now? Because obviously he beat, did he beat Robert Whittaker? Robert Whittaker beat him, sorry, other way around. If you're like those guys, are you a bit pissed off because you're looking at that title? Yeah, but because there was talk of Adesanya facing either Cannonier or maybe even a rematch with Whittaker, and then they've just dumped him off. I've just disappeared off the screen. Would you be a bit annoyed if you were those guys?
Yeah, but also if he beats Blachowicz, I imagine, because they've announced it's probably going to be soon. Whittaker's not fighting very soon, then, is he? I know that division's kind of tied up. Like, Till can beat Hermanson, then ask for a title shot. Whittaker's leading it. So, if he does fight Blachowicz and wins, then he'll probably give it the middleweight belt. It'll be Whittaker versus, say, Hermanson or Till for the middleweight.
Yeah, I think so. And it's interesting because, like, the Adesanya versus Blachowicz title fight makes the potential Jon Jones fight even bigger. Like, it's bigger. I think I just said before we started recording, Dan, like, Jon Jones versus Adesanya is about as big a fight as the UFC can do at the moment, outside of a Conor McGregor fight. And if you add in Adesanya as a two-weight champion and it's the light heavyweight championship which Jon Jones relinquished, makes it even bigger, mate, doesn't it?
It does. It seems that they're just prepping it up as something that could happen. But, I mean, that's no easy feat going up a weight, especially up against the champion.
Blachowicz
so
looked very good.
He has.
Last few fights, haven't he?
Yeah, and if he does get it to the ground, which he's got the capabilities to do, because he can push closer to Adesanya. And on the ground, Blachowicz is very good. This will certainly be interesting. I think we're going to see another side of Adesanya. We're going to have to, or he's going to have to show another side to himself because he's going to get tested more than ever. But look how dominant he's been. It would not be surprising if he wins. But by the same token, if he comes up a little short, that wouldn't be a surprise to me either, really.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's almost like a risk by the UFC, isn't it? Because if Blachowicz does beat Israel Adesanya, which, like you say, is possible, do you think it takes the edge off the Jones-Adesanya fight then, if Adesanya loses to Blachowicz?
Yeah,
it does,
100%.
doesn't it, Aaron? Do you think? I think it takes the edge off it, so it is a bit of a risk.
The only reason they want Adesanya Jones is because Adesanya's like 21-0, isn't he? Something like that.
Yeah.
And Jones is like whatever he is.
Basically undefeated, isn't he?
Yeah, basically undefeated.
As was it?
That's the only reason that fight's
isn't it?
so hyped, is because they're just undefeated in their own divisions. So if Blachowicz beats Adesanya, that fight doesn't get talked about. It'll be Blachowicz versus Jones, won't it?
Yeah. And that'd be a great fight, but I get the impression that John Jones is not really interested in like a light heavyweight title fight unless it's on Adesanya, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would have kept hold of the title, wouldn't he?
Yeah, Jones is a clever man. He's been around the sport a long, long time, and what a great way to create a lot of attention to yourself, and claiming you're going to go up a division, and then it frees up what happens in that division. You get a new champion. There's someone else willing to come up into that weight as well that's unbeaten, and he might take a scalp or two at that heavyweight, and then he's got a nice storyline to go back down and re-establish himself. I think he's prepping all this up
beautifully
himself.
Very good businessman, isn't he?
And I think if he does that, which I think he will, I think he'll then do his retirement then. I just think Jones is a clever man. He's
very similar to Conor McGregor and that, like the business side of things. He knows the right time to stoke a bit of controversy on social media, or post something, or just like have a go at a fighter, or just something which is going to get him attention, and then he'll go quiet for weeks and weeks, and then he knows where he's going.
It's funny how you use Conor McGregor in like the similarities to try and like get their attention to themselves. They both like to get in trouble with the police.
Yeah, they both had issues.
Conor McGregor likes it in old men
as
well.
Both got controversy surrounding them, haven't they?
Yeah,
same kind of thing.
Yeah, just very true. Someone who doesn't go down that route, who we saw retiring last week, was Khabib. And Daniel Cormier done a really interesting interview with on the Ariel Helwani show, and he was talking about in the finish to the Gaethje fight. So it's the second round, and he basically said, Khabib had the set up, and he was about to put an armbar on to Gaethje, but Gaethje in the run up to the show had one said his parents were there, and two said he would not tap no matter what. So Khabib during the fight thought he had the armbar, but switched it to a triangle to finish the fight because he didn't want to break his arm in front of his parents, and because he knew he wouldn't tap and he'd have had to break it. Like, that's quite incredible to have that thought during a title fight.
Be that calm and used to what's going on.
Yeah. Like the toughest ever fight on paper. Some people picked Gaethje to beat him, and he's got the time and the I don't know, like the calmness to just think about that, rather than most fighters would be going their mind's going 100 mile an hour in a fight.
Yeah.
And just to be able to think of that, but it also shows the kind of guy he is as well, I think. What did you make of that, Danny? As you're a former fighter, coach, experienced around the sport and fighting generally. What was your views on that?
Well, if you got that amount of composure and control, I mean, that's just even more impressive for one as on a martial art point of view. Fighter point of view, and and how thoughtful. I mean, normally this thought is brute on brute, you win by any means you can, but the fact that he's stating that he was trying to protect him from some
Yeah.
physical humiliation in front of his parents. Well, that's just even more amazing, really.
It's impressive, mate, and it shows his character. Like I know, like I've mentioned before, one of the things which put me off Khabib a bit was all the things where, like, with Conor McGregor and everything which happened with the Dolly, which we don't need to go back over. But obviously, one of the things I didn't like about that is that everyone kind of skipped over the fact that it all happened because of what Khabib had done in the first place, and I didn't really like that sort of thing. But since then, I think his behaviour, his attitude, the way he's talked about fighters, the way he's gone about his business has been nothing short of exemplary. And he's probably one of the certainly in the top 5 of all time, I'd say. We'll have that conversation in a bit, actually, with Anderson Silva retiring. So yeah, another top fighter in his day, retired last night, Anderson Silva. We talked last week about our kind of memories of him, but just overall, Dan, without going into the fight too much, what did you make of it? Because Dana White said, whilst he did pay tribute to him afterwards, Dana White said he did not feel good about himself that he let Anderson Silva fight again. He felt that he was that bad. I didn't think he was that bad, to be honest.
I think the only reason you didn't see him look too bad was partly because he didn't have it put on him through respect. I feel like the pace was slow, purposely. I felt like he could have got really hurt, but I don't think.
Do you think if Uriah Hall if that had been against anyone else, Uriah Hall goes at it from the first round and finishes him in the round?
I mean, Ryan Hall's he's a bit of a slow starter anyway, but I just think he could have really hurt Anderson Silva at any point. But he was starting at a slow place. I think he's just being respectful. I mean, you saw he was in tears afterwards. Part of him probably didn't even want to put the beat down on Anderson Silva anyway. Yeah, absolutely. And I just got that sense that he's just being absolutely respectful. And Dana's kind of right, really. Perhaps Anderson Silva shouldn't be in that sort of age.
Do you think he's definitely done? Dan? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the shots were knocking him off his feet. They weren't particularly hard shots.
No.
One of the things that do go, they talk about your chin going and stuff. I've even said this when I'm sparring, and I get clipped even on top of the head, sort of thing. It can knock you more dizzy than it ever used to. At the end of the day, you've got like a webbing, haven't you, that connects your brain to your skull, and that webbing, it's just a thin membrane, and it breaks down over time. Every big impact that you have, that breaks away, and your brain moves around more and more with these impacts. It's never going to get better. It don't ever rehabilitate itself. So, thinking of all the years of martial arts that he's done and all the rounds of sparring, this happens to people when you get older, and your brain shrinks as well. So it puts that webbing, under more strain. So, yeah. But it is what it is. It was okay. He had some moments in that fight, but he doesn't look nothing like what he used to, and you wouldn't expect that at 45 years old.
No, 45. Jesus. What about you? I'll tell you what, Aaron. I'll put a slightly different question to you. Do you think Dana White was a little bit disrespectful? Because I saw some people saying that was really disrespectful thing to say, but like, I don't know. Did you think he was that bad? First of all,
I think what Danny said nailed it. Like Hall, I don't think he's been so respectful towards Silva. I just think Hall starts very slow anyway, and Silva's hard to work out. He moves, he does loads of this like herky jerky, feinty stuff. But then once Hall started throwing his right hand, it was over for Silva. He couldn't even. He read Hall's jab very well, but he kept moving the same way for it. That's why he got caught with the right hand. And I think that's just purely because he's 45. His reaction time slowed down. He shouldn't have been in there. I don't think Dana was disrespectful in saying that. I think he meant it. He didn't mean it in there like he's a bum, he shouldn't be in there. He meant he didn't want to see the greatest of all time get smashed around like that. Hurt. And a lot of people took it the wrong way.
I absolutely agree. And listen, if Dana White wants to be disrespectful, he won't mince around with words. He'll be disrespectful, and he's done it in the past about Anderson Silva on one of his performances. I can't remember who he fought, but
it was when he was doing all those
Yeah,
like
nothing
broke the
really
top
happened.
and he got
Damien Maia.
nailed, didn't he?
Was it Damien Maia? Yeah, and it was a bad performance. And when Dana White thinks you perform bad, he tells you in no uncertain terms. And he's done it with Anderson Silva. This was, I think, a genuine thought that he had, and it's kind of right in his thinking. Really, I can understand that he was worried putting him in there. You know, this guy is a legend. He's done amazing things for the sport, and the last thing you want to do is see him go out, you know, in an embarrassing way. Now, it wasn't that embarrassing overall, but I just think it's almost like an exhibition match to me. That's what it looked like, and I respect Hall for that, to be honest, because he could have made it a really ugly looking affair for Anderson, but out of the respect, he didn't do so. He still got the job done, still got the win on his record like he should have, and we expected to. I know I said for Anderson Silva just to win last week, but that was out of pure, you know, respect to do so. Yeah, but I knew he was absolutely up against it. But you know, it doesn't matter. Look, you know, I don't think we should harp on about his retirement fight. That really isn't what Anderson Silva was about. It's about his legacy that he made during the prime of his life, and boy, did he make it. I mean, he was just ripping through everyone, no matter how good a grappler there was, wrestler or striker. He found a ways to win.
And I think what people should also be aware of is Anderson Silva created almost like a new type of MMA fan. He attracted people to MMA, which, so like especially in the UFC, people saw the early UFC things, and once that novelty had worn off of seeing the big fighter versus the little fighter, or the sumo wrestler versus the karate guy, or you know, whatever it was in those early ones, it slowly became more about the quality of the fight. And there was a period where UFC was losing people, like viewers, because the novelty had worn off and they maybe didn't have the quality of fighters. And that era then where Anderson Silva came in, he created this excitement with his style of fighting, and suddenly he brought in a new legion of fans to the sport, and I think he deserves like a massive amount of credit for that. We'll talk some more about Anderson Silva anyway when we get there, but let's quickly go over the Bellator. There's a couple of fights which we're going to look at. So before we get to the title fight, we had Jake Hager fought Brandon Calton. So Jake Hager is undefeated in Bellator. I think he's undefeated in MMA actually. He actually started his MMA career quite late. I think he was like mid-30s. Obviously, he was NCAA champion or whatever it is in America. Then he was a WWE superstar for years and years and years. Then he stopped that and he's gone into MMA with Bellator. Bellator do like these kind of crossover guys, from whether they be athletes or wrestlers or whatever. But Jake Hager's got a bit about him. He's a big boy. What did you think of this fight, Dan? And what did you think of Jake Hager's performance? He took a bit of a beating.
Well, yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with either of them, to be honest. They both looked very wooden. They didn't look well-rounded in terms of the MMA capabilities. You know, and I like watching any striking sport, so you know, I did have my moments of enjoying watching what I was seeing, but it was no level of MMA that should be
on Bellator's main card.
Yeah, to me,
it was on the prelims actually. I apologise.
Yeah,
but still, it's on Bellator.
But yeah, it is. I mean, Bellator do these things, and sometimes the matchups can be interesting. Colton, you know, he was there to fight without a doubt, and so was Hagen. But it was just sort of, what can you say about it? You can't talk about it in technical senses.
No.
Hagen was going in with his head really low. I mean, you're supposed to throw your straight hands with slight movement in your head each time you throw, so your head's off centre line. But he was dropping it down to Colton's knee line. I mean, he was just looking for the clinch and trying to get the takedown, which he was struggling to do.
I feel like Jake Hager is very much like a wrestler doing MMA. And I don't mean like a WWE wrestler. I mean like a traditional American wrestler doing MMA. And I think that's where the holes in his game are. Like, he can wrestle. He's a heavyweight wrestler, but his striking's not great. His jiu-jitsu's not great. So it makes for nothing. And I just feel like if he didn't have his name from the WWF or WWE, he wouldn't be on Bellator. He wouldn't be at Bellator's level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'd be somewhere smaller, regional, whatever you may say. Anything to add on that one, Aaron?
No, he pretty much said spot on. It was a lackluster heavyweight fight, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hager's strikes, he looked like he was reaching for a lot instead of just trying to let him pop and stuff. And yeah, it was just awful. His wrestling looked strong. He looked strong in the first round. But outside of that, yeah, like you said, I think he's just a wrestler.
Yeah, I'm really glad I made you watch
Quite
that fight. 3 rounds of that, just nothing. There was more enjoyment in the 20 seconds or a round and 20 seconds of Sobar Hamasi versus Bobby Volker. Fantastic finish to this. I actually really enjoyed this round and 20 seconds. I thought it was entertaining as hell. What did you make? But obviously they both had a little stint in the UFC. It was not a long stint for either one. Aaron, we'll start with you with this one. What did you make of Hamasi versus Volker?
Hamasi was there to look good, and Volker was there to make him look good. Volker really didn't do much. He was getting his leg chewed apart straight like off the bat. Didn't change up his game plan or anything for it. He was too slow, and Hamasi just took his time and pretty much chewed him up. But
what do you think of the finish?
Good. Yeah, it was a good finish. Good knee.
I love a knee, mate. I love it. It's nice.
Yeah, it was
nice
really
knee
good. But
KO.
Volker should have been in there. Hamasi,
No.
it was just to make Hamasi look good.
Interestingly, Soba Hamasi now has called for. He wants to fight Paul Daly in Paul Daly's retirement fight. I'm not entirely.
If they put Bobby Volker in with Hamasi, I don't see they'll probably push him to put him with Daly. Because there's a great finish. A lot of people's going to view that finish, so they're going to view the fight with Daly.
Well, yeah, I saw a lot of people on social media focusing very much on the finish and not the rounds which preceded it, which wasn't great. It is what it is. There's worse fights they could put on for Paul Daly's retirement fight as well. So let's just be happy that there's that. Danny, what did you make of this one, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, brutal leg kicks.
Yeah, they were.
But it just looked ugly. It looked like 2 different level guys in there. Because when those leg kicks were hitting on, there was no adjustments being made. What can I say? It was just again, Bellator falling in the trap of doing these sort of things where they either put freak shows on or put 2 people of 2 different levels on there, and that's what it looked like to me. It just, I don't know, just looked like a mouthy new guy come into a gym and the coach gives a nudge, hey, look, lay it on this guy a little bit, and that's what it looked like. It's just, I mean, they were both there to fight. I take it that much, but it does nothing for me seeing that.
So Volker fought a UFC 158.
He fought Robbie Lawler as well at one point.
So he fought Patrick Cote in his debut. Then he fought. He was supposed to fight. Yeah, and then he did. I think he lost via knockout in the second round to Robbie Lawler.
Brutal.
Fox
show. I remember watching it. I was like, that didn't look nice at all.
And then he lost a couple of other fights to kind of William Macaro and Lance Benoist, and then he's in Bellator. And then in terms of Hamasi, he was in the Ultimate Fighter, was he? Yeah, he was in the Ultimate Fighter.
Tim Means pieced him up. I remember watching that as well. Pinched him up and elbowed him.
Right.
He lost to Abdul Razik Al Hassan at UFC 218 after a controversial early stoppage. But he was only in the UFC shortly. So I don't think it was all right. I enjoyed the finish particularly, but like you both said, not one to write home about. What about the main event of this Bellator card, which was Gerhard Mousasi versus Douglas Lima for the vacant middleweight title? Went to a decision, which Mousasi won 48-47, 49-46, 49-46 to pick up the win and the title. Danny, what did you make of this fight? We don't need to go through it round by round, but just the general.
Yeah, Moises looked good. He was pushing Lima back. Lima seemed to be too happy to fight with his heel touching the fence, which kind of surprised me a little bit, because when, punches and kicks were thrown down, he looked like the more powerful guy. And so normally what you get when you get a more powerful guy, they normally take centre. But he wasn't taking centre with Moises, and Moises really performed well. He was not putting everything in every shot, but he was making sure that he was throwing more than Lima was throwing. And Lima just had no sense of urgency once he started dropping down a couple of rounds. Lima started looking good in the final round, and to me, there was no excuses really. He could have started doing that a lot earlier on and making more of a fight of it. Now, I don't know whether, because he's gone up a weight as well. This was up a weight, so it shouldn't have been a weight cut issue. But it looked like he just wasn't having any faith in his cardio. It just didn't work hard enough for me, and it had me scratching my head, because Douglas Lima, to me, has really impressed me in the past. He's looked really devastating, sharp, switched on. But it looked like he wasn't perhaps aware that he was slipping behind in the rounds as much as he was. But besides, he done really, really good. It impressed me with the way he got a couple of the takedowns that he got, and really impressed me with his combinations, the way he stayed out of trouble from Lima's power. But yeah, Lima left me a little bit disappointed, to be honest. I thought he could have done and made more of himself in that fight.
Yeah, at times over the years, Lima's looked a very dangerous fighter. And we didn't really see that, I guess, in this. What did you make of this fight, Aaron?
Like Danny said, is like Lima didn't want to let pull the trigger on anything, and I think it was down to Moises as well. Just staying in front of him, calm, composed, kept popping him with the jab a lot. Every time Lima landed a leg kick, which was hurting him, Moises just didn't act like there was nothing. Really put Lima off his game. Yeah, and he kind of got shelled up by Moises just picking his strikes, and his takedowns was nice, his entries was nice. Like in the first round, I thought he could have got a stoppage. He looked nasty on top of Lima, hit him with some hard elbows and a few headbutts. But but Lima definitely looked the more powerful. Like if you wanted him to explode at one point and just let it all go, but he just didn't do it. Like he's looked like you see him when he fought Roy McDonald, when he fought like Paul Daly. He can KO people if he connects with them, and he can brutalise people if he throws at them. So I'd expected him to come out powerful, and it was going to be a great striking fight, but Moises just dominated him with a jab.
Yeah, and Moises, he's such a poker player, isn't he? He's like Theodore. He just shows absolute nothing. You don't know whether he's scared, tired, or
doesn't give
anything.
Much away, does he?
Don't give nothing away. Really, really poker face, and he shows it in his demeanour as well. It's like if you watch the way he holds his form and stuff, it's just like it looks like he's not into it, but obviously he gets the job done. But got a strange mannerism about him, but he's absolutely effective. I think he's someone that over the years hasn't got as much attention about his MMA as he deserves, because he's legit one of the best out there.
100%, mate. I think we'll move on from Bellator, because it wasn't the best of cards. Such a strange company, Bellator's in some ways, the way they put together some of their fights and cards.
Agreed.
But, it is what it is. So in the UFC card, there was two fights on the pre-show I wanted to talk about. First and foremost, I was going to just have a quick chat about Cole Williams versus Jason Witt. Didn't last too long, a couple of rounds. Danny, I know you didn't watch this one, so I'll defer to Aaron for this. But I thought Jason Witt, mate, was quite impressive.
Yeah, he looked strong, didn't he? He looked real good. But that Cole Williams, that's the second time he's missed weight now, and the second time he's lost in the UFC.
I'm going to talk about weight in about 2 minutes.
I just don't think he's UFC's level. And
no, me neither.
Jason Witt did look strong, but if he fought someone actually UFC level, would he have looked the same?
I've had several text messages over the last couple of days in the run-up to this card, and they were asking me, they want me to ask Danny and whoever the guest was, is there an excuse for a professional MMA fighter to, particularly in the current climate where you've got like lockdown and things like that, but overall anyway, is there an excuse, Dan, to miss weight at the very top level really.
Not really. To me, like missing weight is like, say, you've got a high-end job and you turn up late. You're paid to do set hours and perform your job at a set level. To me, there is no excuses. I understand that it's hard at times, but you got to get it. You got to get down. There is no excuse, because a lot of these fighters, they have like dietitians. There's a lot of people involved in their camps to make things all fall on target. I personally, I'm forgiving about it. No, you're there to fight at a certain weight, make weight, simple as that, or move up. And I fought over 2 different weight divisions, and
a lot of fighters are doing it. More fighters are doing it, aren't they, as well?
Yeah,
going up and down.
Quite often giving away weight, but one thing I would never have accepted from myself is not making weight. So
yeah, it's an interesting one. What about you, Aaron? We've got a view on that, mate?
Especially at that level, you can't expect people to miss weight at that level when it is their job at the end of the day, isn't it? Like, they're earning that much money, they're on the big shows, they gotta be making weight.
Is it harder, or
he's missed weight? He obviously didn't learn for the first time.
Yeah, is it harder or easier to make weight with lockdown and everything? Assuming that your gym and everything, you've got access to everything which you need.
Easier.
I'm from the outside, I think it should be easier, because you haven't got.
Especially like
really
in the UFC
like,
level, it's your job. You could afford not to work, but when this lockdown was on, there was no work, so it opened up my training routine, which was training, make weight, training, diet. There was no work, messing around, so it was much easier in this lockdown situation. So they should be breezing it.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought Jason Witt was very, very good. His kicks were low kicks, particularly, I thought were excellent. But the triangle choke was nice. He busted him open, and just he was like at the end of the first round. The end of the first round, Cole Williams was just like a bloody mess, wasn't he? And Witt had Cole Williams' blood all over his forehead, and it was just like, this is only going one way, and it did. He finished him nicely, and that I liked with the choke at the end. He kind of just gradually, and then he just slipped it in, and almost the blood kind of almost helped him get it right under his chin, nice and tight. Next up was.
And sorry, just quickly though, was we not supposed to cover the Josh Barnett one? Did you want to do that?
Oh yeah, go on then. Right.
I didn't watch this.
I watched it.
Mate. Right, yes. So just before we go into the Jack Marshman fight, Danny has just reminded me that JD sent a message and asked if we would cover former UFC fighters. Josh Barnett fought in KSW, which is basically bare knuckle boxing or bare knuckle fight, because elbows and stuff are allowed. So we put Danny on the on assignment. Tell us what you made of Josh Barnett's performance.
I've always been a fan of Josh Barnett, actually. I think he's been an incredible MMAist over the years. I really like it because he's got that catch style, which is, I guess, I'd always argue is my sort of first style of grappling. So always really rated him. But of course, this wasn't about grappling. This was a bare knuckle affair where they allow elbows as well. And the other interesting fact, they did it in a square cage. So a little bit like being in a ring, you could get kind of like cornered up somewhat. But what I did like is Josh Barnett really showed his ability to strategize and use tactics. So what I noticed here was that the other guy that he was fighting up against was the better outward striker. So what Josh Barnett was doing was he was punching, clinching up, and then working a lot using his wrestling. So he was stripping down the guy's right hand by holding his wrist. And then he was throwing up his elbow. So, and to me, this is really what won it for him. He was just putting his weight on his opponent all the time. He was wrist wrestling at him, getting the advantageous arm location, then throwing up those elbows and the short strikes. As soon as he's out as he opened, his opponent started looking effective again, but he would punch, go into that clinch scenario going. He pretty much won it from the inboxing or the dirty boxing situation. So I quite enjoyed watching it from that technicality. I thought it was really interesting how he found a way to use his MMA background to be effective in that kind of arena. So yeah, well done to Josh Barnett, man, I thought he performed really, really well.
It's weird, like Josh Barnett. So the last time he competed, it was 2016 when he beat former UFC heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovsky by submission, and he had fight of the night, performance of the night bonus for that. Then following that, he had like a bit of a nightmare where he was literally. So USADA revealed he had tested positive for a banned substance. He denied it. Blah blah blah. He then kind of moved to Bellator. He had an illness. He had all this stuff happening, and I believe, I'm just trying to look now, but I believe after that he was then told that there was like some sort of mistake with his test and that he hadn't tested positive.
Oh my god!
And I think that's really naughty because like that effectively ended his UFC career or any chance he had of having a further UFC career. I just try and confirm that. But yeah, he's had a lot going on too. Even just from that point of view, it was good to see him back fighting. Even if maybe not like the biggest stage, I guess you'd say. But still, good to see him back. I thought it was alright. He won quite convincingly. Good for him.
Yeah.
Next up then, back to the UFC was Sean Strickland versus Jack Marshman. Jack Marshman missed weight again. I saw a lot of people slating him for this. Look, it would be hypocritical of me to criticise Cole Williams for missing weight several times, and then in the very next fight excuse Jack Marshman missing weight again because he's Welsh or he's British. And look, Jack's missed weight now I think 2 or 3 times in his last 4 or 5 fights. That's not it's not good enough. It's not acceptable. You know, there might be reasons for it which we're not aware of course, but it is a problem. I think more of a problem is that he hasn't won for a very long time. And I think he's starting to be in a similar boat to John Phillips, where you're wondering whether the UFC might pull the trigger. I hope they don't, because they're both very enjoyable to watch fighting. Jack Marshman is an animal. Like, the amount of punishment that he can take and still just keep coming is impressive. Should he move up a weight, Dan, do you think?
Well, if he's struggling, the thing is, he don't even look big at that weight. If you have a look at that Strickland, he looks naturally a lot bigger. He's a little taller, look a little more athletic and thicker set. I can't see why there's an issue there. I mean, weight cutting is just horrible. It's not a nice affair. So whether he just finds it hard to deal with psychologically, but I don't know. You just should be able to. I'm just not forgiving on it. You know, I'd be
like
peed
I
off
said,
if any of my students didn't make it.
we'd be hypocritical if we excused him because he's Welsh or British or whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is. He's missed weight several times. There's something there. Like, obviously he's fought middleweight for his whole. I was just seeing if he's ever fought upper weight. He's fought middleweight for his whole UFC career. Has he fought at a different weight? It doesn't look like he's ever fought at any other weight for any other company. But like you say, he doesn't look massive for middleweight.
No,
is the other thing. Aaron, what for just on the weight cutting side of it? Like, do you think Jack maybe goes up a weight? Could that help him out, or?
I don't know, if he is struggling that bad, then yeah, of course he needs to go up a weight. Or if he feels like he can't actually make the weight, you know, do or die situation. You need to either do it now because the UFC will cut you, or go up a weight. So it's up to him, because it is his job, it is his career. He can do what he wants. Like, but yeah, he either gotta have belief he can make the weight or move up weight.
Yeah, he's got to do like one or the other. I feel like, because it's becoming problematic.
He's shown at middleweight he could take shots from middleweight. Like, he could probably take shots from light heavyweights as well. So if he was that much, if he didn't have a weight cut, he'd probably get a bit more powerful as well. Could work out better for him.
with Jack Marshman, like I feel like his offensive tools on his day, he could beat most fighters, but I think there is holes in his game.
Like
but,
he looked better in the Strickland fight when he did put a combination together when he went up down for like that little blitz. He looked good. Like he wasn't gassing or anything towards the end of the fight. He could have done that throughout the fight.
Yeah, and I think Danny, sorry, man. I was just going to say, Danny, we've talked before about Jack Marshman's dirty boxing. It's probably his most effective offensive tool, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it looked like to me in that fight he was just struggling, trying to find his range. Strickland was keeping him to his range basically, and okay, Marshman can take punishment. That don't win you fights. I mean, it is to behold what some athletes are willing to take, and they seem to show no fear and so much resilience. But it's not going to get you wins at the end of the day. Look, if you're struggling with someone's range because they've got a longer reach, you've either got to have superior footwork to find a way in, or you've got to be bigger combinations. And like Aaron was saying, he had successes when he was feeding in longer combinations. That if that's the way to win, that's what you got to do. You got to bite down your mouthpiece and just work physically hard. Now, if he wasn't showing that he was gassing in that third round, it goes to show he had something still left in the tank. Let it all out. Just let it all go. I know Dana White's really keen on seeing people with the desire to win and willing to leave it all in the cage, come what may. I just don't think the answer is for him to go up a weight. Personally, no. I just think he's going to struggle there. He just doesn't have the if you're going to go up a weight and be smaller, you've got to go there with a complete skill set, and you've got to be more martial arty, if you will, and strategy, and have good tactics. I just don't think that's going to be the ways to win. I think he should just get this weight issue sorted, and do what he does best. Force his opponents into fights. Improve that footwork a little bit more. I think that'll really serve him well.
Yeah, I did him a disservice. I said he'd missed weight 3 times. He's missed weight twice in the last 3 fights. So he missed weight for the John Phillips fight, so they moved into a catch weight. Then he lost to Edmund Shabazian in July of 2019, and then he lost, obviously missed weight and lost catch weight fight last night. So he's lost weight twice in the last 3 fights. Do you know how much he missed the weight by last night? Like, was it close? I wonder. It's one of them. Like, do they keep Jack and John Phillips around because they'll make for entertaining fights? Or ultimately, I think they're probably both at risk now of being cut. I think Jack less so than John Phillips, just because Jack Marshman has got a couple of wins under him in his UFC career. However, what I will say is I wouldn't be against pitting them against each other again at middleweight, because that was a very entertaining fight. Well, we'll see. Sean Strickland, though, Dan, what do you think of his performance?
Yeah, he looks good, quite sharp, tidy, calm. Yeah, he looked really, really tidy. But I don't feel like Jack could force the pressure on him to see what he's like when things are not always going his way, whether he can make those adjustments. I didn't feel that we got pushed to see that with him. But initially, you've only got what you got in front of you, and the way he dealt with it looked pretty good. He looks
Strickland's legit. No joke either, though.
No, he's a good fighter.
Yeah, he fought Ponzinibbio and Usman, didn't he? And he looked okay at them, a welterweight. So middleweight, I think he looked right to home at middleweight. Like, he looked big. He's rangy. I think he'll do well. But
he's still quite young as well, still, isn't he? He's a pretty young guy, I think.
Strickland?
Yeah, he's not very old, is he?
I don't think he's like massively old. So Jack, I'll check his age now. Jack Marshman, he missed this one by 1.5 pounds. Sorry, I was just saw the picture of Sean Strickland in a neck brace, and I was like, whoa! But it's from a previous thing. He's 29, so I mean he's at the peak. He's a big boy. He's 6'1". He's fought a welterweight himself as well. Yeah, I don't know. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought he looked really technically really tidy. Jack just couldn't get going, and I thought Sean Strickland looked good. And I agree with you, Aaron. I think he looks like he could do something if he keeps progressing. He's at a good age. I was just trying to see if I could find out how much Jack Marshman missed weight by against John Phillips, but I can't. Oh, he came in at 188. So what's the middleweight? What's middleweight? 186, is it? 185.
Yeah, that's a few pounds, even more.
Yeah, so he was £2 over then as well. He's over, innit? He's over. He could take a punch, tell you that much. But there we go. Let's get on, because we've got loads to talk about. And we've been going 40 minutes already. When you cut out all the bits I got to edit out, mind it probably is about half hour. But let's go. Let's get into the main card. There's not loads of fights on the main card. I would say to anyone though, if you haven't seen it, watch the Adrian Yanez versus Victor Rodriguez fight on the prelims. That was incredible to watch, because it seemed like everyone bar Adrian Yanez thought that Victor Rodriguez was going to win. The commentators really seemed to be like leaning towards Victor Rodriguez winning. Maybe it was just the way I interpreted it. And the round starts, and straight away Rodriguez pushed him against the cage, and this kind of everyone's like, the commentators seemed to think he was going to win, and then all of a sudden Yanez just nailed him with this like counter strike combination, and he wobbled him, and then just hit him with a couple of rights, and then he ended up leveling with a big head kick, and the referee jumped in. But I was really enjoyable. 2 minutes 46. Very enjoyable fight to watch. I love an underdog, mate. Me. So first fight of the night on the main card, Bobby Green versus Thiago Moises. I really like Thiago Moises. I think there's something there. He's only 20. I think he's 25 off the top of my head. But I don't know. I thought Moises won round 1 and 2, 1 and 3, and I thought Bobby Green maybe got round 2. I thought it was clear that Moises won. Bobby Green did not think so. Danny, what did you? First of all, what rounds did you score?
Yeah, it's probably the same like yourself. I thought Moises made considerable improvements with his striking. He looked really powerful. He doesn't look very long, although he managed to really rip his shoulders. He was getting his shoulders into the shot, so it's making him punch long. And the only thing with Bobby Green's game that both makes him exciting and also can lead him to wins is the fact that he fights so often with his hands down. You know, he's really quite rangy.
Right down as well, and they are
right
by
down
his hips.
And Moises was really taking advantage of that and clobbered Green with a few really nice clean shots. But Bob Green just didn't adapt in terms of his striking, but he did adapt and start taking Moises down, which really surprised me. He actually did pretty well there. So Bob Green clearly had no fears of being on the ground with this guy who's proven to be a legit decent black belt. He done really, really well with that. I think Green could have stole that final round by trying to nail those takedowns and trying to keep him there. But Moises really impressed me. I've got to say, you're like you say, he's quite a young man.
25.
So he's improving on the job, so to speak, and he showed a definite increment on his previous performances. We're excited for him. But Bobby Green was in that fight the whole time. But I just feel like him having his hands down like he did kind of went against him in the end. Sometimes it goes in his favour, but this time I felt like it left him a little bit open, and he got scored upon because of it.
Yeah, and I think there was one point, I think it was in the second round, maybe the third round actually, where he went for a takedown. Bobby Green did it at a weird time. Like, when he went for the takedown, he didn't really need to, and it almost played, because he was winning the round, and it kind of played into Moises' hands then, because it almost turned the whole round
Yeah, that
in
was,
Moises' favour.
Aaron's got a better memory than me, but that wasn't that hammerlock attempt. Aaron that put him.
I was
that
in and
round
out of this fight. I was listening to this fight.
Oh,
I
that's what
wasn't
you said
tuned into
before
it.
when we was off air.
So like
Yeah, I think
basically
it was
Bobby Green was winning the round.
Yeah, it
like,
sounds
yeah,
like Moises was winning the whole fight to me. So I was listening.
He just made mistakes, and like Bobby Green was winning the round, and then all of a sudden, I think Moises kind of got him against the cage, and he grabbed his leg and took him down, and then Moises just very quickly kind of flipped it over, and then after that, Moises seemed to get a bit of confidence, and he just took the fight away from him, and like to me, like I said, I gave Moises round 1 and 3, Bobby Green probably round 2. But I felt like whilst Bobby Green was in the fight at all times, I felt it was quite clear that Moises won. But if you were just listening to it, like Aaron just said, he was just listening to it, it sounded like Bobby Green was winning.
But if you're listening to it, if you look at the way Bobby Green fights, he makes you want to talk about him. Because he showboats a bit, and super snappy and sharp. In fact, I thought he was overrunning Moises at one point. Moises went for leg lock sequence. When I say sequence, he's putting his leg one way, the other. He went for the Achilles. I think he should exchange it for the heel hook, but he was exchanging his legs from one side to another side, trying to exchange his controls, trying to keep the leg lock attempt there. But it really took something out of him, because Bobby Green done really, really well keeping their legs apart, and then he managed to pull his legs short. When they stood up, Bobby Green's cardio, I mean, this guy's mid-30s, and Moises is like a young man in comparison. Moises started looking really gassed, and he was really stagnant, and he was waiting basically to get his breath back with his back against the fence, and Bobby Green started tagging him up, but Moises' defense was tight, really tight, but he did look really, really gassed at that point. But that was the only time when I started to think, hey, you know what, Moises might be folding here. But he got his second wind, and he come on strong in that third round.
That's what I mean, though. I feel like that second wind came because Bobby Green went for the takedown at the wrong point.
Right. Yes.
And it turned the momentum of the fight, because it gave where Moises did look like he might, like you said, he might look like he might fold, but then because Bobby Green went for the takedown, he quickly turned it, and then that just changed the momentum. All good, buddy. Next up was Kevin Holland versus Charlie Ontiveros. So on the football show, which we do live Monday and Friday, little plug, I wouldn't say famous, but like it's common for me to have a little rant here and there about whatever is going on in the football world. I don't usually have a rant in the MMA shows, because it's not that type of thing, is it? I was not happy with the way Kevin Holland behaved after this fight at all, and I'll tell you why. When they've kind of gone down, and as they've gone down, Charlie Ontiveros has fallen awkward, or he's done something, and he's hit the ground, he's hurt his neck. So he straight away has said, I think he said broken neck, or he's broke his neck. So in fairness to Kevin Holland, he stopped. He was on top of him and he stopped. He didn't hit him, he didn't do anything, and then the referee stopped it because of verbal submission. Fine, that's fine, all up to there is fine. But then the way he behaved afterwards, mouthing off at Adesanya, and as if he had just like won the fight with skill or technique, or like knocked someone out or done something, and he didn't. The guy just fell awkward as they went down, and also this guy's like couldn't feel parts of his body from the neck down, and he's like, I don't know, I didn't like it at all, mate. Maybe I'm being overly sensitive, but I didn't like it. I wasn't a fan, and maybe it's also because I've had a similar injury, obviously, with myself, so I know how scary it is. But I don't know, I just felt like he didn't tap him out, he didn't knock him out, so I didn't feel like it was the position to start mouthing off to Israel Adesanya while this guy is getting his stretch it out on a neck thing. What did you make of it, Dan, anyway? The fight, the finish, what I just said, everything?
Yeah, I mean, the young lad Charlie, he come out looking really good with his strikes initially. Those kicks come from taekwondo background, really leggy and rangy. When it went to the ground, he looked like he didn't really have any complex know-how how to scramble up off the ground. He kept trying to do power moves to get Kevin Holland off. And then that reached situation where the takedown happened. Now, I totally understand what you're saying, but I don't think Kevin Holland was meaning to be disrespectful to what happened to Charlie. I don't think he perhaps knew that it was potentially as bad as it was. I think it would have been truly, truly out of order had he been mouthing off to Charlie, just to hurt his neck. But his attention wasn't on that. He just was euphoric because of the win. And he started mouthing off to Adesanya because at the end of the day, he's trying to create attention to himself because he wants to have a bigger payday. So I totally understand where you're coming from. And yes, it's not good etiquette what he did with this. It wouldn't be the way I would want my students to conduct themselves. But I think he was just caught up on the moment. And that's how I saw it.
But here's a question for you. So say he knocked him out and he behaved like that. I got no problem with that whatsoever. If he tapped him out, got no problem with it. But like it was like almost like a fluke and like a freak accident, freak injury, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it wasn't like he'd done even like a massive takedown, like you see some of those suplex takedowns and the really big ones. It was just kind of like a freak accident. So I did it, like he won because it was a verbal submission. I get that, but I don't know. It rubbed me up the wrong way, should we say? What did you make of it all, Aaron?
I don't think he was tending to be disrespectful. I think he just got a problem with Adesanya, like you said.
Yeah.
So he was in the heat of the moment. He sees Adesanya. You know what Adesanya's like. You probably.
Yeah, he said something back straight away, didn't he?
So it's gonna rile up Kevin Holland.
Yeah.
But I think he deserves a name now. Someone close to the top 15 or in the top 15.
Yeah, I agree.
I think someone like Akhmedov.
Am I pronouncing right? So you got Magomed and Khalid.
Oh, yeah, him or Weidman.
What about
Magomed?
Misha Serkinov. What about him?
He's light heavyweight, middleweight.
Yeah, that's. Oh, sorry, mate. I'm looking at the wrong one. So you got. It's always handy, isn't it? Yeah. Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
Uriah Hall. Tavares. Akhmedov. Yeah. Omari Akhmedov. Is that the one you mean?
Yeah. Is he still ranked?
Yeah, number 12 he is.
Because I was thinking maybe Vettori, but he's matched, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's got one coming up, Vittoria. And then a bit higher up, you've got like Uriah Hall, Weidman, Gastelum. There's a few names in there, but I do agree with you, even though he rubbed me up a little bit wrong after the fight. I do believe that he does deserve someone now. He deserves someone in the top 15. Yeah, so Vittori... it doesn't say on the UFC website. I'm sure I read somewhere that he's got someone coming up, though. I'm sure I did. But Vittori would be a good fight for him. Let's have a look. So who you got down? Who would you put him against? Vittori, Akhmedov, Tavares, Sebastian.
I don't know. When you said Gastelum, I don't know. You said about Gastelum. I think Gastelum would be a great.
Gastelum's ranked number 8. That's quite a jump.
But he's had his losses though, hasn't he? So
I don't know. Number 6.
Oh yeah, that's another possibility. But then that really is jumping up big. But
so you need 2 more, innit? Gastelum. I think Darren Till, Gastelum would be massive fights for him. But obviously they're looking for wins themselves, aren't they? They're on the back of a couple of losses.
Yeah.
A Darren Till or a Gastelum versus Kevin Holland could be. It's good for both because they'll expect to beat him, and it's giving him a name. Whether maybe I don't know whether Darren Till would be looking for someone a bit bigger, maybe, but
yeah, I don't think Till would take a fight like that just yet.
It should be a risky one for him, wouldn't it? Then we were just chatting then, Aaron. Like, who would you give him? You got Vittori, Akhmedov, Tavares, maybe Sebastian, Weidman, Hall, Gastelum.
Weidman
Brunson.
or Tavares, but Tavares just got matched up with someone, didn't he?
Well, then I said, Danny said Gastelum would be quite a good fight.
Yeah, he's come off 3 losses, isn't he? That'd be good for Gastelum. He needs to.
Yeah, and I said, you know, if you're going to go that high with it, like Gastelum's ranked 8, Darren Till ranked number 6. Darren Till's off a couple of losses. You know, Darren Till would be a fight, but
Isn't
I
he
don't
matched
think.
with Hermanson though?
Yeah, he is. But,
Yeah.
you know, we're recklessly speculating, mate. We could put him with anyone. But yeah, overall, I thought Kevin Holland was pretty good, mate. Guys, I thought he was pretty good. Next up is everyone's favourite fighter. Greg Hardy faced Morris Green. This wasn't close. Aaron, we'll start with you this time. What do you make of this?
Greg Hardy looked good. He was landing shots pretty hard. Murray streamed out. And just exactly what he described in the last week. He just, I don't know, it's hard to describe him. He's a big dude, obviously, and he obviously hits hard, but he's not UFC level. I think Greg Hardy had his number. Like, he complained about the stoppage. It was fair. He was face down. He was flat.
Yeah, he fell face down, didn't he? Like when he got nailed in the side of the head, he kind of collapsed face down.
It wasn't in a good position. He wasn't like going to get out, get his arm pulled back, and Greg Hardy hitting you. It's not like he was advancing or anything.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good stoppage. You know, I love a moan, especially about stoppages. So I thought it was a pretty good stoppage. What did you make of this fight, Dan? Because Greg Hardy's only 10 fights into his professional career, in fairness to him.
Yeah. Maurice Green. Yeah, we see his stats. He's a huge man, 6'7", big dude. It looks like he's beginning to learn how to use that height and range. But they both had the same reach, didn't they? 80.5 reach. But Greg Hardy caught that leg kick, didn't he? Lifted him off balance and then crunched him with that shot that put him to the ground. But I respect Maurice Green for surviving the first onslaught. And then Greg Hardy almost looked a little bit gassed towards the end part of the first round when they got put back to their feet. Looked like he was breathing a little hard, and I thought, oh no, don't say he's going to start fading out because of cutting weight, because he actually has to cut weight, doesn't he? He cuts about 20 pounds to get down to that weight. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, that was my worry when I seen him miss weight.
Yeah,
I know my accumulator.
Yeah, I actually thought he was going to start gassing, and the worst thing you can do with someone with a long reach and 6'7" height credentials is start gassing us down on the outside, because Maurice Green will pick you apart with simple jabs and simple teeps and kicks that he has got in his arsenal. Because one thing Maurice Green is, it does seem quite fit. He looks like he could keep digging away, and that would have been a nightmare for Greg Hardy. But Greg Hardy found ways around it. He landed with powerful strikes, and he never let Green come back into the equation in that second round like he did first. Great.
Yeah, Greg Hardy's not the most popular of guys, but it's mainly to do with like stuff outside the cage, which we don't really need to get into. But like, he just rubs people up the wrong way because the things he's been accused of. But he did say that he's going to use his new found UFC fame to clear his name. He is 100% innocent.
Yeah,
whatever that means.
I don't know what that is. What's going on?
It's to do with domestic violence, I believe.
Right.
But,
yeah, that's not. That's a hard thing to clean off your name once you got that on there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he gets ripped on Twitter for a lot. Like a lot of people hate him for. So yeah, you can imagine it bugs him.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's one of them, isn't it? If once mud sticks, and I think once you've been accused, particularly if there's any sort of like proof or anything like that, or witnesses or whatever it may be, it's very difficult to get rid of those accusations or whatever you want to say. And obviously, I have no idea whether he was guilty of it or not. I just mud sticks, as they say. But I thought overall his performance was pretty good. And one thing I do like about him from an MMA point of view is if you go back and look at his first fight, we're now 10 fights into his professional career, 10 fights into his UFC career. He has improved massively in all aspects of his game.
Agree. He has.
He's really, you can see that he's put the work in. He hasn't just gone in and think, well, I can knock people out, so that's what I'm going to do. He's worked hard on his ground game and his defensive jiu-jitsu and things like this and grappling. And I think he deserves credit for that, because it's very easy, particularly when it's someone who's famous elsewhere and is not particularly liked by everyone, to kind of write him off as a one-trick pony who can just box or whatever. But he's put the work in, and I think he's getting the results. Be interesting. Who would you put him against now? Because it's interesting. Heavyweight is a weird division. Is he ranked? Greg Hardy, he's not, is he?
I'm going to look it up.
He is heavyweight, isn't he, Dan Hardy?
Yeah, he's outright heavyweight. Yeah, he's a massive dude.
Yeah, he's not ranked. But I mean, it won't be long till he gets a ranked fighter, I don't think. Maybe like one of the lower ranked fighters. You've got like a Sergey Pavlovich, a Walt Harris maybe. Walt Harris versus Greg Hardy could be a banger. I quite like the feel of that. Anyone stick out for you if I read you some names? Maybe you got right at the bottom. You got like Tybura, Ivanov, Pavlovich, Walt Harris, Olenek Sakai, Abdul Ramakikimov, Junior Dos Santos, Volkov, Overeem, Derek Lewis, and then you're up to the top three: Rosenstruck and Garner.
Yeah, I don't know. You can't stick him in against any of those top guys.
Walt Harris one interests me, I think.
Yeah. When you said that, it kind of like ran like a tune. That would actually be a good fight to watch. I think they'll both.
Yeah.
They'll display well on each other. Someone will get knocked out. That ain't going the distance.
Yeah, that ain't going.
I can tell you that much.
So Aaron, we were just we were speculating who we'd put Greg Hardy against next. If we were going to give him a ranked fighter, like someone lower down the rankings. I suggested Walt Harris, who's ranked 11. Is there anyone in that heavyweight division which you would like to see Greg Hardy have a go at now?
Probably Walt Harris. Walt needs a win, Greg needs a name. So yeah,
works for both, doesn't it?
Yeah. And
I think it would be like Danny said, I don't think that fight's going the distance, and
no.
I think it'd be enjoyable. Talking of enjoyable, the next fight is the one that I was really looking forward to the most. Danny, I feel like we raved about Bryce Mitchell in the last time he fought. He's up in the rankings, ranked number 15. He faced Andre Fili, who's a very, very good fighter on his day. What did you make of Bryce Mitchell versus Andre Fili? Bryce Mitchell picked up the victory, by unanimous decision.
Yeah, I mean, great performance, definitely. Fili just visually looked bigger than his previous. Yeah. He's quite a wiry guy. He's not very thick set in the leg, but he definitely looked more bulked up the top arm and around the shoulder. Definitely look a stronger Fili than we've ever seen before, and that showed through his ability to escape some of Mitchell's tight positioning. He's unable to get out from those mount positions and actually turn the positions over, not just to scramble to his feet, but actually put Mitchell on his back. Now, that could be both as a compliment for Fili's conditioning, clearly trying to bulk up a little bit more and become a bit of a bigger weight cutter. That definitely showed itself here in this fight. But Mitchell did show some holes in his game, and the two holes that I sort of noticed in his game was his defensive striking. So he was actually all right delivering his strikes. He landed on Fili, who's a pretty decent striker. Nearly everything that Bryce threw landed really nicely, threw a really nice crosshand, threw some nice kicks, but his form really wasn't there, and he started to breathe really heavy after that first round. Actually looked like Fili was going to take over. I had some fears for Mitchell, but in that third round, Mitchell was able to get it to the ground, and Fili just was unable to continue to do those great escapes that he was doing and those turnovers he was doing in the first two rounds. And Bryce pretty much smothered him in that third round. So it's still impressive because Fili is good, and anyone that's beaten Fili has got to be decent level. But Mitchell definitely was as dominant on the ground as we've seen him in the past, where he's putting people in submission after submission.
Sure.
But yeah, if Mitchell wants to continue his rise to fame, he's definitely going to have to address the issue with his form on his feet. yeah, that's about all I could say about it, really. I was a little bit surprised he let his base go. Maybe he's just so confident on the ground, he doesn't care that it gets put on his back. But one of the strong things you learn in jiu-jitsu when you're learning is when you're on top, you stay on top, you show good base. But we can put that down to Feely's, conditioning. He looked very, very strong, I've got to say.
Yeah, I thought Feely looked pretty good in certain aspects of his fighting. His kicking and stuff was good. You felt like when Bryce Mitchell did get the takedowns, he looked pretty dominant, didn't he? The other thing I'd say, I agree with you, what you said about Bryce Mitchell. He does need to keep working at his game. We just talked about Greg Hardy and how hard he's worked at his game to keep improving. And I feel like Bryce Mitchell's got to do that if he wants to. Like, he's burst into that top 15 with his grappling skills, but if he really wants to work his way up that top 15, I feel like he's got to keep working at other aspects of his game. But here's a stat for you, Aaron. Andre Feely had only ever been taken down 4 times in one fight, and I think Bryce Mitchell doubled it, I think, in that fight. So I think that shows how good and how strong Bryce Mitchell is in the takedown. What did you make of this fight, though, mate?
It was good. Bryce looked good. Definitely needs to work at his striking. He was very stiff and it was forced. He definitely had some power, he had some shots, and he Danny said, he was landing a lot, but his form was stiff. And if they didn't have that takedown kind of threat, I think Feely would have put it on him on the feet. He definitely got the tools to. His jab looked sharp. He looked sharp on the feet. He looked stronger as well. But Bryce Mitchell's grappling is real good. You've seen that in the first round, and they're both fresh. They're both not sweaty. He was good, but he did rush up to positions too quickly, I thought, which he needs to learn from. I think someone like Cub Swanson or Jeremy Stevens is a good test for him now, because his top 15 in the featherweight divisions are full of killers. I had a look at them earlier. The rankings there's a lot of good guys in there. Too good, I think, for him at the moment. So someone like Cub or Stevens would be good for him.
Yeah, I was just looking then at that featherweight division. They're likely going to put him against someone maybe just above him, I suppose. Just above him is Edson Barbosa, Ryan Hall, Dan Ige, Shane Burgos. I just feel like at the moment Barbosa would probably destroy Bryce Mitchell because of his all-round game.
Arnold Allen wants Barbosa anyway, doesn't he?
Yes, he does indeed.
So,
but Cub Swanson seems like a good shout, mate.
He's back. Yeah,
what's
he's not in the top 15.
Shane Burgos?
I think he pick Mitchell apart. I don't think Mitchell takes Burgos down.
No. So it's interesting where they go with Bryce Mitchell now, because they obviously think highly of him, and it's kind of where they want to keep him going up the top. But do they risk giving him someone like a Barbosa or who's just above him in the rankings, or do they go with a Cub Swanson for him to continue his growth as a fighter and hopefully keep picking up the wins? I mean, for me, it makes most sense to give him a Cub Swanson, where you can long-term thinking, isn't it?
That's a good call, the Cub Swanson one. And I just don't want Bryce Mitchell to fall down, this route of being seen like a Damian Maia. No one fears. Obviously, he gets his wins, but no one fears. You're not going to get hurt against him. I don't want him to be just seen as a pure jiu-jitsu guy trying to make it. I want him to become this all-rounded athlete, and he's young enough to do so. Damian Maia was getting long in the tooth, long ago in the MMA, but so he just stuck it through his roots, and I get that. But yeah, I just hope that he does continue to try to improve in other areas, because he ain't always going to succeed with getting the takedowns so freely. There's some monster wrestlers that can also strike, scarily. There's some scary bangers in the division. He's not ready for that top tier yet, but he's certainly progressing very, very well. Cup Swanson. Cup Swanson actually hadn't fought for a while. He was like super active, but he's been out of it for a little while. I just wonder whether.
Yeah, he hurt his knee in Quintet.
Okay. Right. Okay, I didn't know about that. Right, that explains why he's been out.
Yeah.
Right.
Be interesting though, that fight. I really feel, and I agree with you, Dan. He's young. Bryce Mitchell's young enough to make himself the kind of, for lack of a better term, the ultimate fighter. But like he's young enough to make himself like a proper all round killer. He's got the base, haven't he? And he's got the basics to go and do it. It's up to him to put that work in at the end of the day, and really go and get it. But I'll be interested. I'll be watching him to see where they put him next. Okay.
I think he will. I think he'll put the work in. I think he will.
Yeah.
I do too. He seems
it.
like, especially because he had that serious injury, didn't he, himself, where he put was it a drill through his nuts or something? It was something. It was something really like.
Yeah, but gruesome.
Sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, he was out for ages. Like he, what was it? I'm sure it was a drill. It was something like.
I thought his cup split, didn't it?
Yeah, I can have a look now. Let's have a look, because I got to get it right. Yeah, no, he tore his scrotum while using a drill in a freak accident.
Ouch.
Posted pictures of his clothing covered in like blood.
Nut juice.
Yeah, mate, it's brutal. But,
Ouch.
So to come back from a serious injury like that, and be at the level that he's at, let alone anything else, it shows he's got the mentality and the work ethic to do it. It's just up to him to keep progressing the other parts of his game. And next up, we had the main event of the evening, the end of an era, the Spiders' last fight, as Uriah Hall fought Anderson Silva. I mean, I know people have said, Anderson Silva, he was rubbish, blah, 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 he didn't look great. I thought he looked alright. I didn't think he was, like, terrible. It wasn't, like, on the level of Jake Hager and Calder in Bellator. Do you know what I mean, Dan? It wasn't that bad to watch, like, I thought it was alright.
No. I think I just summed it up when we... was it off air or was we on... It was at the beginning.
I can't remember.
I think it was on the beginning. I think it was on air. I just feel like, he did perform, reasonably. Taking the age into account, and Uriah Hall he's a big hitter. You make a mistake, it's consequential, as we eventually ended up seeing. But I think Uriah Hall gave Anderson Silva, so much respect. He allowed Anderson Silva to show glimpses of his former self. Yeah. He looked pretty sharp. He just didn't have the power and the work rate that we know that can be put there, although Anderson Silva has been criticised with his work rate as well in the past. It looked very exhibition-y to me, without being disrespectful, because I don't know how else to sum it up. But I do feel like if Uriah Hall had no respect for Anderson Silva, I think he could have put him out in the first 2 rounds. But
he could have, if he had poured it on him like he did to finish the fight, or even towards the end of the round before, you feel like if he had done that at any point, the fight probably would have been over very quickly.
Yeah.
And and that's like you said though, Uriah Hall is notoriously slow starter, but also you could see the amount of respect he had. I don't think it felt like he didn't even want to beat him. The way he sort of was apologising afterwards, but
sure,
maybe he would have preferred it to go to like a decision. I don't know. It's got to be difficult, I suppose, but equally, he took the fight. I don't know. It's a weird one. What did you think, Aaron, of Uriah Hall's performance overall?
Yeah, I think Danny's right. If Hall exploded on him in the first round, it could have been over. But then it's not Hall's. He's known for this. He holds back. So Hall says he's got a different mindset, but he didn't show it in that fight where it was due to him respecting and said, it was just Hall being Hall. But it was not a good fight for Anderson. I think he should have retired after he fought Adesanya. Like Adesanya said the same as well. He didn't want to hit Anderson. He wanted to play with him, and that's why he went to the decision. Otherwise, Adesanya, I reckon, would have put him away in one as well. But yeah, Silva just hasn't got it anymore. Is he? His reaction time is slower. His movement's very you've seen the speed difference in him all throughout.
Laboured, isn't he?
Yeah, every time Paul did throw a jab or something, it was very quick and sharp. Where Silva threw his, it was sharp and quick for a 45-year-old, but being a 45-year-old, you should be in UFC.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like time to wrap it up, or sort of thing.
Yeah, and he can't take damage because as soon as he hit the deck, he was stuck. Just no movement, no curling up, no looking to play a decent offensive guard. Just laid there.
Yeah, like legs and arms everywhere, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
They were like spray, like just like all over the place like that. But you know, I guess it is what it is, as they say. End of an era. The Spider's gone. Khabib's gone. We got all this new talent coming up.
It is getting that Silva went out on this note though, because all the new wave of fans are going to see this side of him, not the destruction he used to put on people.
Yeah,
it would be nice to go out there and him just, like, catch him with an axe kick and KO him.
Yeah. I thought when he went for that axe kick, I thought, wouldn't it have been nice if he had like caught that flush and kind of just been. That is how he went out, like in style, but it's not the way of the world, unfortunately, and he hasn't looked great. Let's be honest, over the last year or two, whenever he's fought, he's looked a bit laboured and a bit. And like you say, those punches which did take him down, they weren't like huge. Like Uriah Hall wound up and smashed him. One of them was like a very short touch, wasn't it?
And they surprised them as well. When they landed, they weren't particularly hard, although they were flush in connection. It looked like they surprised him. Yeah, it looked like, he didn't even see him coming. Didn't even have a chance to have any defensive reactions to it. He just didn't know they was landing until they landed.
Yeah, incredible, isn't it? But yeah, I would say Anderson Silva is probably right up there in people who kind of brought me into MMA in terms of being a fan and watching it. Like, he was one of the first fighters where I really was like, wow, I've got to watch this. So I'm sad to see him go, but I'm also excited about the fighters who are coming up. There's some unbelievable talent coming up.
That's
around.
That's the nice thing about MMA. There's such an influx of talent from even ranked 20 or 25. There's some amazing fighters coming up, and rather than what's happening in the boxing world, in the boxing world, you maybe got 4 or 5 at the top that you want to see, and then you're struggling ever to match them up together because they're always in disagreement or all
owned by different companies and different.
This is why MMA is growing from strength to strength, because whoever's getting unbeaten records, they're getting matched up against each other, and they don't try and avoid each other. There's
people are sick of it, aren't they? People are sick of boxing where the fighters are dodging each other, or the agents can't come to an agreement on where to fight and who to fight, and time and time again, it's the bad decisions as well. Time and time again at the highest of levels, horrendous. I think there was one people were calling bad judging on the last fight that happened. I didn't even invest a lot of time into it because I didn't have time to do so, but there was numerous people saying what a terrible decision the last fight was over the weekend. So that's a problem with boxing, the judging as well.
It's not been great for MMA, but boxing, it's been notorious. It's done nothing but damage to the sport.
One positive, which we'll get into now, but just to finish us off before we do our predictions for next week's show and finish us off, I wanted to get both your opinions on last night at the UFC show. They were using instant replays whereby the fight wouldn't have been stopped if they used the replay. Is that something that you'd both would actively kind of encourage and are happy to see? Danny first as a coach and Aaron as
Yeah.
a fighter.
I think having a playback is a really good idea. I think it was always a long time coming into football, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To be able to do such a thing. Yeah, why not? You know, it's going to take the pressure off the referees from making bad decisions over certain things as well, a little bit. But yeah, look, it's just common sense. It's logical. So progression, bring technology into it.
Absolutely. It didn't make sense to me as well that they would use it, but then they would end the fight because they used it. Like, that was puzzling to me. What about you, Aaron, as a fighter? Like, are you looking at that and thinking, God, yeah, use the bloody replays?
Use the replays, yeah, but take into account what the damage was like. Say if you use the replay after like a big knee or a legal knee or an elbow happened, you can't restart the fight off the replay. You can reverse the decision maybe, put it as a no contest. But to restart the fight then once the fight has been hurt it's not good for.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He's gonna want it because he's a fighter. He's gonna want the replay. He's gonna want to get back to action. But the halftime, dude, like you've been smashed in. So
yeah. But then, if the knees, like, so say for instance, there's the guy's down, he gets kneed in the face, and they check to see if it's a legal or an illegal knee. The fight hasn't finished, but they check it, and then they rule that it's legal. It's also unfair on the guy who's kneed him, because the guy who's taken the knee has had time to recover in that period.
But
so there's loads of aspects to it.
Yeah. Right.
It's weird, isn't it?
If it's a bad knee and you're like, mate, that was stopping you regardless, then stop it. The guy's won. But if you're like, that knee really did hit, we just looked illegal, to restart him.
Yeah. What about you, Dan? Something you were looking at?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's been brought in probably because of all this eye poking that's been happening.
Oh, it's been constant this year, isn't it?
Yeah, I think initially it's going to try and squash that.
Don't they?
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of it is, Aaron. To be honest, I just think the gloves can be better designed to help curl the hand around a little bit more. But it's going to take a little while before the refs get used to using this, and it will develop and they'll improve with it.
Same as anything, it takes time, doesn't it? And people get used to what they're supposed to be doing. People get used to the technology and how to use it, best to use it. They'll adapt it, they'll change it. UFC's pretty good with stuff like that, though, I think.
Yeah.
So. Okay, let's have quick predictions for next week. There's nothing on the prelims who I think stands out. I can't see anyone.
What is the card next week?
Main event is
Thiago
Santos versus Glover Teixeira.
Oh, that one.
So there we go. We'll start there. Who you got for that? Rank number 1 versus rank number 3.
So I got Santos.
Yeah, I think I've got
too
Santos
powerful,
as well.
too quick for Teixeira. Teixeira's good boxer, good. He's got good wrestling as well, but I think Santos is going to be too powerful, too quick off the bat, and not let Teixeira get warm.
I'm going to go Teixeira. I'm going to go against you guys.
There we go. Do you think? So, obviously we talked about Blachowicz is going to fight Israel Adesanya. These two are ranked 1 and 3. Before they announce that Israel versus Blachowicz, they've got to be thinking the winner of this is going to have a title shot, surely.
Yeah.
Dan? Aaron?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? They're both highly ranked, they're fighting each other. They've got to be thinking, if I win this, I'm next in line. But really, they're not going to be, are they? Because you've got Israel versus Blachowicz, the winners, or if Israel wins, he's going to face John Jones. If Blachowicz wins, he's going to face John Jones or rematch with Whittaker, because enough time will have passed. And then you've got these two kind of waiting in the wings. It's a big division. There's also a heavyweight bout between Andre Arlovski and Tanner Boser. Danny, who you got in this one?
I
I know you're very familiar with Tanner Boser.
Yeah. I'm going to go. Let's go Bosa. Yeah, let's go Tanner Bosa. Arlovski's been doing really, really well though lately. But yeah,
Tanner Bosa's a big boy, isn't he? Just looking at, they've got UFC has got Tanner Bosa's weight listed as 265 pounds, and Arlovski is 240. So that's a big difference. I'm going to go with the bulldozer. Bulldozer Bosa, I think. Aaron, who you got for that one?
Who did you choose?
I chose. Well, we both chose Bosa. Actually.
Bosa.
I'm gonna go with Arlovski then, just to go against him. I was thinking Bosa, but then there's Arlovski is either gets KO'd or he don't, and he wins.
Yeah, he's still well relevant.
That Bosa's, I think, is gonna be looking to KO him early and maybe get outstruck and outpointed.
I don't know if you heard me. I say he's got a big weight advantage, Bosa.
Yeah, 20 pounds.
So I think Arlovski's hasn't got the same chin that he once had, should we say? I don't think. Who else we got? Oh, ladies' fight looks good. Claudia Gadelha versus Jan. I can't pronounce that name. It's a Chinese name. How to pronounce an X in Chinese?
Oh, God knows.
I think it's Yan Shosan, but I'm not sure. She's fighting Claudia Gadelha in the women's strawweight division. Aaron, who you got there, mate? Do you think?
I'm not sure who the other lady is. I know Claudia. I'm gonna have to go with her because I'm not sure who the other lady is. Claudia's always good. She's like championship.
Jan's good.
Yeah, Yan Yoshan, I think her name.
Yeah, she's very, very good. I'm gonna go Yan.
So you split. I'm a big fan of Claudia Gadelha as well, but I'm going to go with Yan Yoshan because I do like some of the Chinese ladies which have come into the UFC have been exceptional.
They're brutal, aren't they?
Yeah, real badass ladies. And that's it really for the big names. There's obviously a load of other fights, but we're not going to go through all of them. We'll be back next week. You never know. We might have Aaron with us again. He kind of popped in and out tonight, didn't he, with connection.
I do apologise if my phone is dying.
It's all right. It's all good. We got the stuff we needed. I'll edit around some stuff as well. So always good with the editing. We'll be back next Wednesday for another episode of the Danny Batten Fight Show. I'm sure we'll have a guest of some sort. We like to have guests. Thank you very much to Cage Warriors Welterweight, Mr. Aaron Khalid. Tell the people where they can find you on socials, mate.
You can find me on Twitter at Khalid MMA, and you can also find me on Instagram at AJ Khalid. Hopefully I'll fight you soon in December.
I was going to say that I didn't ask you because we asked you last week, but I'm hopeful in next time. Next time we'll be able to tell us. Danny, tell the people where they can find you on social media. I'm joking. You don't know. You don't know.
Facebook?
Yeah. Come find
just
it.
Look up Danny Batten.
Yeah, just search at Danny Batten. At Danny Batten FS on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube.
I've actually got Instagram, but I can't remember. I'll go on
Danny
it
Batten Unlocked. Danny.
Got
3, haven't you? Danny Batten
Unlocked. My son set one up
Danny
for
Batten
me.
MMA coach.
I tried to do one myself.
The main one, Danny Batten at Danny Batten FS on Instagram and Twitter. That's the show's Twitter, and obviously follow A.C.E Podcast Nation. Most importantly, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the best way to support the show, the channel, everything. Lots of new shows every week. MMA Wednesday, football Monday, Friday, mental health in sports Sunday, conspiracy theories coming back, and all sorts of other exclusive interviews. Got some UFC interviews coming up as well. So give us a subscribe and a follow. Until
I want
then,
to get on that conspiracy one.
Yeah, you got.
I was going to say, can I get on here as well?
Yeah, we want a bit of that.
Everyone wants in on that one. About to drop. Well, after the mental health and sports series was finished running, it was only supposed to run for 5 weeks, but because of stuff which is going on and the reaction to the show, I've extended it to 10 weeks now, so I might have to drop the conspiracy theory show on a different day. Can't make people wait like 10 weeks for the new ones. But there we go. We'll see. Well, being MMA fighters love the conspiracy theories, though. I've noticed that. All right, we'll see you next Wednesday. Latest.
Champion,